Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Matthew Rowe, and I am the CEO of the Campaign for Wool in Canada and its parent organization, the Canadian Wool Council. Campaign for Wool, it was created by our patron, His Majesty the King, 10 years ago. We're now celebrating our 10th anniversary year with a mission to spread the good news about wool as a natural, sustainable, and biodegradable fiber. And as our work has grown over the years, as you know, we began first as a program of His Majesty's Charitable Office, and since we're spun off as under the Canadian Wool Council, and have continued to grow that role. It's the work of the campaign is still very important to us. The big news from our end was His Majesty renewing his patronage for the foreseeable future. So again, really proud of that enduring commitment to promoting wool as a sustainable fiber. But of course, as our work has developed over the years, we've really expanded our efforts to develop opportunities specifically for Canadian wool and the Canadians who transform it. And today we're very lucky to have some partners involved in just that work and an amazing project that not only provides a value-added opportunity for Canadian wool, but helps to tell the rich story of Canada and long before Canada was even an idea, and the traditions and stories of the peoples of the Pacific Coast, which we'll be getting into. So we are very lucky to have with us today two great speakers: Chief Janice George, who is a Hereditary Chief of the Squamish Nation. Thank you and welcome. And Jenny Castris from the Vancouver-based rug company Burritt Brothers. Before we begin, I just wanted to acknowledge where we're broadcasting from is on the traditional territories of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the New Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to a diverse community of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. But we do have people coming from treaty territories all across the country, and in some cases, non-treaty territories. But we are all pleased to be here to hear this incredible story of this great project. Jenny, you said you wanted to go first, or Chief George, whichever.
Is that okay, Chief?
Yeah.
You go? Okay, I'll go. So I'm gonna um share my screen here. So I'm Jenny Castris. I am from Burritt Brothers and Colin Campbell in Vancouver. Let's just let me know when can everybody see?
Yeah, we
Matthew?
can see it.
Yes, looks good.
So this is a PowerPoint presentation that we put together for the International Wool Textile Organization in December. And since then, at the time, we only had our samples for the collection, and now the full rugs have arrived and we had our launch party. So I updated the presentation that way. I don't want to steal any of Chief George's thunder. She has a lot of meaningful things to say about the land. So this does encompass the collection, but I'm going to try and keep it brief so that we have more time to listen to Chief George. So the collection is called Sacred Places, Threads of History. It was a rug collaboration project with the Campaign for Wool Canada, Chepximiya, Siyam, Chief Janice George, and Skwetsimeltxw Willard Buddy Joseph, and our company, Colin Campbell and Sons and Burritt Brothers. So I'm going to just walk through a little bit of the content, who we are as a company, how the collaboration came about, a little bit about what we do here in our hand-knotted rugs, and then a little bit about Canadian wool, and then how we did the design and all the process for the collaboration, production, and then our launch, which actually was just last week. So who we are a family-owned and operated flooring company. We're located here in Vancouver, British Columbia, and we also have a satellite showroom in Calgary. We are a flooring importer and distributor. We manufacture wall-to-wall carpets and area rugs in Europe, New Zealand, India, and Nepal, and we bring them over to Canada. And our focus is on wool. So we specialize in wool broadloom and area rugs. And in October of 2022, Matthew and the Campaign for Wool Canada, they produced a video called Coast Salish Weaving, featuring Chief Janice George and her partner Buddy, and talking about the Coast Salish weaving traditions. And they asked us to host the video launch event at our showroom. So we had the opportunity, all of us, to meet here in Vancouver and show this beautiful video for the Fabric of Canada series that the Campaign for Wool did. The owners of the company are on either end of this photo. That's Harvey Burritt on the left and our CEO, Keith Donagany. It's a family-owned and operated company. Harvey is third generation. Keith is his son-in-law, so fourth generation, and it's still in question whether the kids will join. So Matthew and the Campaign for Wool Canada invited Chief George and Buddy and ourselves to collaborate on a new project moving forward to produce an area rug collection using inspiration from their Coast Salish weaving designs, along with 100% Canadian wool yarn, which is something that we had not done before. We've been doing wool carpets for decades, but we had never made any carpets using Canadian wool, to our surprise. So this was a very exciting endeavor. So for our company's relationship with hand-knotted rugs, in early 2008, we had always sold area rugs through our company. We had never made our own. So we forged some relationships with weavers in Nepal in the Tibetan hand-knotted tradition. Nepalese rugs are known for high quality. You can get an incredible amount of detail in them. And it's a tradition of craftsmanship that has been passed down through generations. Part of what we love about this collaboration also is with Chief Janice and Buddy. Their weaving traditions have been passed down through generations. So there was a nice crossover there between what they have done in the Coast Salish and Squamish culture, and also what the weaving traditions in Nepal that have been also passed down through families for generations. Over the years, we've collaborated with many different artists to produce various capsule collections based on art. This is our first Indigenous collaboration, which we're very honored to work with Chief Janice George and Buddy. So here are a couple of past artist collaboration examples. All of these are Vancouver artists. Johnny Taylor, it just gives you some examples of, these are paintings, taking paintings and actually working them into artwork for your floor. Sid Dickens is another Vancouver artist. His artwork is those ceramic tiles with all different types of artwork and prints, and his manufacturing is here in Vancouver. We've done a couple collections with him. So a little bit about Canadian wool, which was new to us in terms of floor covering. To make a hand-knotted rug, of course, you need the highest quality wool yarns. And we've learned through this collaboration and process that Canadian wool is quite special because of its high elasticity and its soft handle. And we also learned, and Matthew can correct me if I'm wrong, but in my research, only 10% of Canadian wool is actually sold domestically and the rest is exported. And through this project and hopefully future projects, we would love to see more Canadian wool being used here in Canada. So as I mentioned, the collaboration for these rugs is our first ever experience using Canadian wool in practice. And the wool came from Briggs and Little Woolen Mills in New Brunswick. A little bit about the mill there, which we have learned. They began in 1857 in New Brunswick, later taken over by Matthew Briggs and Howard Little, giving it the name that it has today. They've suffered a few hardships over the years. They've rebuilt the mill 4 different times, the most recent in 1994. And they introduced color in the 1940s. And the mill was still partially powered by water until the 90s. And now it's still owned and operated by descendants of Howard Little. We actually had the amazing opportunity to meet Leah Little and her husband. They came to our rug launch last week, so that was really special. Here you see a photo of Chief Janice George in one of her weavings. We took inspiration for the rug designs through some of their weavings, and I'll let her speak more to this. And we also talked about the importance of the land and the stories that the land carry here. So we took a little bit of inspiration from the weavings and the land and to come up with our rug designs. We had Chief Janice and Buddy select palm colors that had meaning for them. And so these are the 3 designs, the rug renderings done by our in-house artist, Sami Shaheen. So the one on the left, Standing Rock, and then a runner, Woven Connections, and then on the right, the 2 sisters. And again, I'll let Chief Janice speak to these a little bit more. We then produced samples. You can see some of these close up. We chose some high-low carving into the rugs. We did some loop style. We did cut pile. We just wanted to try out a couple of different textures to see which we liked best before we produced the actual rugs. They all turned out very beautiful. And when we received the samples, we had a meeting to show them to Chief Janice George and Buddy. And at that time, they were able to put their hands on them, was the time that the collection was named. So they named the collection Sacred Places, Threads of History. And this is a quote from that meeting that I took from Chief Janice, that everybody can make a connection with the land, not just the Squamish people. Everyone that lives here should experience it. You can feel the land or feel the energy and prayers that the ancestors have left behind, that the energy stays on the land. So we went ahead with production in December 2023, in just days before Christmas holidays. The yarns were shipped from New Brunswick to Nepal. They were white, all white, and so our weavers in Nepal dyed them to the color specifications of our designs. The rugs went into production in January, and we received them back here towards the end of April. Our weavers had high compliments for the quality of the Canadian wool. It was strong, durable, but also had a very soft hand. So they were very pleased it was their first experience working with Canadian wool, and they loved it. And we launched the collection just last week on June 13th here in Vancouver. We produced the 2 area rugs in an 8x10 size, and then the one runner, we actually produced 2 runners, and they're 2.5 feet by 10. And then following the original production here, any other custom sizes, custom colors, everything will be made to order. If we sell the 8x10s, we will make new ones and replace them, and same for the runners. So here's some photos of the production process. On the left in Nepal, those are yarns being dyed. in the heated water and boiling water, and then a woman spinning the yarns onto cones, I believe. And then some of the hand carving details, that everything gets cut by hand after it's knotted, and then several very vigorous washings, and they scrub them so that everything comes very clean. We always we say that sometimes the most wear and tear that the rugs get is in the production process before they're shipped over to us. I mean, wool is so durable and amazing. You can really put it to the test there. So last week we had our launch event here at our showroom in Vancouver. Here's a couple of highlight photos. In addition to our collaborators, the Campaign for Wool, Chief Janice George and Buddy, and ourselves, we had local designers, friends and family, other artists from the community, and of course our special guests, Briggs and Little, all the way from New Brunswick. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we are extremely honored to have been chosen to work on this project. Thank you to the Campaign for Wool. Thank you to Chief Janice and Buddy for being open to working with us. This has been an extremely meaningful collaboration, and to have Canadian Wool be a part of it, and all the learning all the stories of the land, it's been something that's very dear to our hearts. So thank you. And that's it.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, Jenny. And I have to say, it was such a very special event that you hosted for us last week in Vancouver, bringing together so many great members of the Vancouver design community, as well as the Chief George and family and supporters. And it was a very special event, and it was wonderful after all this work to be able to see the rugs in person. So thank you so much for your partnership and helping to move this along. To speak to the designs and the rich story behind them, would now like to ask Chief Janice George to let us know how this came about and tell us a little bit more about the history of Coast Salish weaving and how that is all incorporated in these beautiful rugs. Chief George.
Oh, Siyam. Thank you, Matthew. Am I going now?
Yeah, yes, we can.
It's such an
hear
honor
you.
to talk
We
to
just
you.
can't see you.
Oh, let me see. Oh, it says my video is on.
Lydia, do you have any? If it's happy to, you can just go ahead with the audio because we can hear you fine.
Oh, okay.
Or you can try, turning on the video and turning it back on. Maybe it's just a small
it's probably
glitch.
it's probably still in presentation mode. That's why. Maybe, I don't know.
No, it's all good on our end, Chief George. You can go ahead.
Okay. So it's been very exciting and a total honor to work on this project. I was saying we're such an overnight success, but it took 20 years. So that's always people think people don't understand how much work goes into. We wanted to bring Coast Salish art and weaving to the forefront of our area because it's such an important art for us, and it's really integral to all of our ceremonies. From the beginning of time, we've used our weavings for starting every single ceremony that we have. In the beginning, it was all mountain goat wool, and we bred a special dog and mixed that in. We mixed in cedar, we mixed in nettle, stinging nettle, and feathers and other things into the weavings to make them, rain proof or rain resistant, water resistant, and warmer and stronger, strengthen the warps with the cedar and the stinging nettle because it's so very strong. And of course, the woolly dog that we bred, that was very precious to us. We've been working actually now on a new project with scientists who are studying the woolly dog and have did mitochondrial DNA to find out that the woolly dogs are 6,000 years old. So we have a really, well, we believe we've been weaving since the beginning of time, but that's, the scientific proof is 6,000 years. So that's pretty amazing. So, I always marvel and feel so proud that our ancestors were so brilliant, to be able to do all of those things, and so very long ago with such limited tools. And I've always been so very proud of that, the ingenuity that it takes. I say Indianuity, but anyway, so I feel like I feel that it's so important to make sure that our youth and our children know how brilliant the ancestors were. And this project was just a beautiful way, to make sure that this information gets out about our territory, but not just about our territory and how well it was taken care of by our ancestors and how it was used, but also to, to do the designs that are so important to our people, the designs that, from the beginning of time that our weavers have been creating. I've looked at weavings around the world, Coast Salish weavings, and just saw how amazingly intricate the designs are, and how they represent the land, and the colors, colors from the earth, and how they were pretty brilliant. And to get the red, they used to use the alder bark, and different things to make it red. But then when they started getting the European sweaters and blankets that were coming in, they would unravel them so they could use the red in their weavings, just because it was so bright. All of these really cool stories that I just love, and I love telling them too. And what we thought when we were asked to collaborate, what we thought for the designs would be great to tell the story of our important places, that the stories need to be told. Stanley Park, it was our largest village, Squamish Nation's largest village. And we have a lot of stories for each part of that park. That's called Stanley Park now. Our name for it is Skwetsimeltxw. And actually, the name the name that was given to that monument was Siwash Rock, which is kind of a derogatory name. So I wanted to tell the story of that place. We call it Standing Rock, and it represents it's a long history of that, but to highlight, and it's the story of one of our creation stories. We had two giant beings that went through our territory and transformed things and changed things, and they were going through our territory. They were going through our territory, and they ran in. They saw this young man, and he was training hard. Every day they saw him. He was training hard. He was in his canoe. He was paddling his canoe, and he was doing other things to train hard. And one day they just talked to him and said, we've noticed that you've been training and training so hard. And he said, well, I'm training because I'm going to be a father, and I want to be the best father that I can be. So that's why I'm training so hard. And they thought it was so noble and such a beautiful teaching, and it's such a beautiful intent to be the best father that he could be. They made him a monument, and that's Standing Rock. So, when we see that I call it a monument. When we see that standing rock, we know, that's the first thing we think of is that man who was training to be a good father. What a great example. And how beautiful is that for our youth to learn and our babies to learn at our nursery school here. And then so that was Standing Rock in Stanley Park. And then the Sisters Mountains, and they call I shouldn't say they, it's called generally called the Lions, yes. And I have a hard time thinking of them as the Lions, but we've always called them the Sisters. And the Northern Nation and us were warring a lot, and they would come down and raid our villages. And I'm sure we probably went up there, and I haven't heard any stories about that, and raided their villages. But this one time there was these two sisters, and they were out gathering berries when they came down to raid our people. And there was two warriors from up north saw those two sisters, and they fell in love with those two sisters. And then those two sisters fell in love with those warriors. And those two sisters actually were they happened to be the daughter of the chief, and the daughters of the chief, and they married them, and they brought peace between the northern tribe and us, Squamish Nation. So our transformers made those sisters, those mountains, and to memorialize them, bringing peace to our people. And so that's what we see when we see those mountains. And what I especially love about that, I love the whole thing, but what I especially love is in the wintertime. It's the only thing that makes me look forward to the winter, is that when it snows, when you look at those mountains and they're covered in snow, we say they're wearing their weavings. And I think that's so beautiful. So I think of that every time it starts to snow and there's snow on the mountain, just to make me feel better. So yeah, so I think it's so important to share those stories. They're so beautiful, and they have so many teachings for all of us. And I feel like we need to share it with with the public, because for a long time Coast Salish have held everything really close, and not really shared a lot. I guess after seeing that some tribes were exploited, and the stories were exploited, so we kind of held our stories and everything back. But now, I feel like and I think as a nation we feel like it's important to share our worldview. So that's what I love about this, being able to share our worldview, sharing our designs, because I just of course, I just love them, and just see the beauty of the creativity of our ancestors. And some of the weavings that I've seen are just so amazing. After being around the world and looking at all the weavings that we Coast Salish weavings in the different museums around the world, I'm just amazed, and I will always, hold that close to my heart. So we're really honored to be part of sharing our worldview and the beauty of our aesthetics with the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief George. That was very, very meaningful. And we're so, again, we'll say it again. We've said it before, we'll say it again, but we really appreciate you sharing these teachings with us, and you sharing these stories. and are acutely aware of how important this is, not just as because this is the history of this land and we the land that we all now live in, but also, you know, this is it's reconciliation, and it's an important part of building understanding for those of us who are later arrivals to the country, to learn, you know, what this country was built on. So thank you.
Thank you.
I think we've got a few stories, or a few questions rather, from the group. So maybe Lydia, I can pass it for you to facilitate.
Yeah, sure. We have a question for Jenny from Daphne. She was wondering whether the dyes used for this collection are natural dyes, if you happen to know.
They're not vegetable dyes, if that's what you mean. They're I don't know what the formula is that's used. So I will have to maybe get back to you. That's something that our weavers will hold the keys to. But any dyed carpets that we have made have always been the wall-to-wall carpets anyhow. They're tested and environmentally certified for low emissions. So I know that the manufacturers we work with, the dyes are not toxic. And wool being a natural fiber, you know, it's always going to come out on top in terms of low emissions. But that can be something I'll have Lydia follow up with, maybe via email. Thank you.
Could I add something in there?
Mm-hmm.
We've done a lot of commissions, and we did a commission for Simon Fraser University of 16 weavings, and you know, also just working with all different kinds of dyes and wools and everything, that the natural dyes they won't last as long. That's the other thing about it. So a lot of commissions we've done, they've asked us, please don't use natural dyes, because the color will fade quickly. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Chief Janice. You don't get the vibrancy always, I think, either.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the color vibrancy was also very important for this particular collection.
Yeah, and I guess it is an important point with rugs in general. I mean, when you're creating a wool rug, and we were talking about this a bit at the reception, you know, again, these are works of art. These are investment pieces, because they will, with proper care, you know, these rugs can last centuries. So we want to obviously set them up to look as good as possible for as long as possible, because these these aren't sort of cheap items that are going to be, you know, thrown away. Like you know, when you're looking at a synthetic rug, you know, you have about a 10-year time frame before it sort of quote unquote uglies out and gets all crushed. And whereas again, a wool rug will only improve in appearance with time. So I think all the calculations that go into ensuring that beauty is long lasting is very important. Please feel free to put your hands up to ask questions directly. Pop them in the chat if you're feeling a little shyer. But this is a great opportunity to learn not just about this incredible first project with Burritt Brothers, and our second 100% Canadian wool rug project in total, of creating sort of new product lines for and opportunities for Canadian wool. But this is also a very rare opportunity to learn more about the tradition of Coast Salish weaving, and certainly Chief Janice's lifetime of work of bringing back this at one point highly endangered art form. And many of you on this call will have seen the Fabric of Canada film, but obviously that just scratches the surface. So feel free to let loose. I know it is a beautiful day, particularly in central Canada.
I wonder if Chief George wouldn't mind just telling the group about how that went for her and Buddy, just learning the tradition. bringing it back to life after it almost was gone.
Yeah, that's a great question. Chief George?
Sure, sure. I love telling the story. Um, so, okay, I've seen the photograph of the chiefs. Our chiefs went to England in 1906, and the Squamish chief, they were representing all of British Columbia. So all the chiefs of British Columbia got together because they were worried about our land. Um, bits and pieces of their land. Their land was getting chopped up by bits and pieces, and they were getting pushed onto reserve lands. And they had a lot of questions to ask about it. So the chiefs got together and discussed it and decided that, you know, um, someone would go back and talk to the king about it. And, you know, I'm always so proud that Chief Capilano was chosen as the spokesperson out of all of the chiefs of BC to go back and talk to King Edward VII. And they did. And when they went, uh, they they were covered with robes that were woven for them. And so all my life I've seen that photograph, and I've always admired it, and I've always got a beautiful feeling from it. And just seeing it, it was, it was so emotional for me. And they looked so regal and noble, and they were the speakers for us. And so I've seen it all my life, and I always wanted to do that. I always thought we should have that. We should be doing that, and we should still do it. And so so and from from when I was a teenager, I was always looking for someone to teach me, and there wasn't a lot of people doing the weaving. In Squamish, there was nobody for a long time, and then we had one weaver, and he was kind of a shy guy, so he wasn't really teaching. So I had to continue looking for someone, and we finally found someone. I was 40, must have been like 40-ish. And we went to a weavers gathering, and I went with a very good friend of mine who wasn't a weaver, but she was an appreciator and a politician for our people. And so anyway, we went, and we were both not confident because it was across the border and everything. So I asked Buddy, would you drive us down, please? And he was like, oh, yeah, sure. He thought he was just going to drive us down. But it ended up that we ran into, who would be our teacher, and set up a time to learn from her. And Buddy ended up being one of the students. And we both learned at the same time. And it was like just like taking in or just coming home again, taking in a deep breath, like finally, it's happened. I so the first day I went to learn, it was like I didn't want to stop, but then I didn't want to, keep people keep people waiting either. So they're like, okay, it's time to go, sort of thing. And so I went, and I had a hard time going to sleep, but when I did, I was dreaming about it. So it was something very it just changed me to be able to weave on how I thought about what our ancestors did, and how hard they worked, how brilliant they were. So it was really a privilege to be. It is a privilege to be a weaver, and I just love it. So okay, so we go and we learn how to weave. It's 2003. Um, Vancouver's Vancouver's putting in an application to host the Olympics, the 2010 Winter Olympics. And, of course, I was worried about what we're going to wear. What are we going to wear? And so we get the bid, of course, the 2010 Winter Olympics. And we dressed about 6 people ourselves, and some of our students dressed other people. So it was really it wasn't a small coming back of weaving. It was huge. It was, for the world to see, which I'm so proud of. Like, I could watch that um, Olympic ceremony and cry every time. But it's really, really beautiful. And so we started teaching. We were teaching. One of the first classes we taught was the elders, and these elders had gone to residential school, and it meant a lot to them. But it was an honor to be able to do that, and have information for them and teach them how to weave when they weren't allowed. When they weren't allowed to learn. It was just not, it was against the law for them to learn. So it was really a privilege to be able to teach them. Then we taught in the schools. We taught in our own Squamish Nation schools and our own, our own people. And so that was amazing. And so moccasin telegraph is really fast. It's like lightning speed. So other nations heard about us teaching, and we taught probably I think 8 to 10 other nations, helped them bring it back. So we taught them the technical part of it, and I say the technical part of it because we always ask them to go and talk to your elders and learn your history of weaving, of Salish weaving, wool weaving. And that's what we did with, when we got home. We went and talked to our elder who was in her 90s, and she told us the teachings that go with it and what it is to be a weaver, because she was connected to her mother, of course, and her grandmother. So she had pre-contact teachings about weaving that we were able to learn and pass on. We do that. We pass on those teachings that go with weaving. And that's so important to pass on, because everybody has a weaving tradition. And I say that when we teach, in the public, in the city, I would say, everybody in the world has a weaving tradition. Go and find yours, and find out what it is, and it'll mean something to you. We can all look back at our ancestors and feel proud of what they accomplished and what they've done, in a lot of ways. So that was the beginning, teaching everyone. Now then we were doing mostly commissions, and we still teach. And now we do public art. We design murals. We design buildings. We design carpets. And we're really proud of that. We're really proud of that. And it's a lot faster than weaving. But we enjoy it, and we feel very privileged to be able to be part of this. Thank you,
Chief George. It's a wonderful journey, and again, we're so privileged to be part of it.
Thank you, Chief George. We have a question for you from Allison in the chat. It's asking, what kinds of questions do you hope will come from people when they look at your beautiful carpets?
Well, I think the first thing I hope people, well, for one, marvel at the beautiful designs, of course. And I think what's important to me, and when I do my public speaking, I always talk about it, make a connection to the land. And that's the biggest message that we all need to hear now. And we all know we have to do something about taking care of the mother. We have to take care of the Mother Earth. And so I'm hoping the message is that all land is sacred, to all of us. We have to treat it that way. We have to treat it that way.
Thank you so much. Jenny, people are wondering where and how they can buy the carpets because they're not on your website yet.
That's right. They will be up on the website in a couple of weeks. But for now, you can purchase them out of our Vancouver showroom. If you don't live in Vancouver, certainly you can call or email us. Um, Lydia, I wonder if you can send everyone our contact information, but the store is called Burritt Brothers in Vancouver. And we also have a to the trade, if you're an interior designer, we have a trade operation called Colin Campbell that has showrooms in Vancouver and Calgary. But Burritt Brothers is the retail showroom, and the rug collection will be featured on both websites, but they are available for purchase now. You can email or call us, and we'll be happy to quote you.
Thank you so much. If anyone else has questions, please feel free to ask them directly or type them in the chat.
Oh, we can see you, Chief George. All right.
I turned the
Yay!
camera off and on and off and on, and then it went on.
That's
So
usually the way.
yeah, yeah.
A little less predictable than weaving, but I guess I have a question, which is in your interaction with other Indigenous peoples across North America, where, you know, what are the other, and you don't have to pick favorites, but where are the other sort of traditions that have been sort of very different to yours, but also that you found really intriguing? Like, I would love to hear a little bit more about you know, what you've encountered in terms of learning about other weaving traditions.
Oh, what I find so amazing and so incredible is that it's the same all the way up and down the, our Coast Salish territory goes down to Oregon and, as far up as on the island, Comox. So it's huge. It's a huge traditional territory of the Coast Salish. And that, our ceremonies are the same. And like I said, about the weaving, the first thing that happens in a ceremony is they lay down a woven blanket for you to stand on. And what that represents when they stand on that blanket is a pure space. So weavers weave a pure space for people to stand on when they get a name or memorialized or puberty rights or a chieftainship, a wedding. So these ceremonies, when they stand on that blanket, it means they're starting brand new. So this weaving that we put down on the ground for them to stand on represents a pure beginning, a new beginning, pure beginning. That's what I'm really proud of. I'm really proud of being a weaver to be able to do that. And, and when we talk about the weavings, when we weave the robes for people who are doing ceremony or just to wear, to events or, it represents protection, spiritual and energetic protection for the wearer. So when we weave something for ourselves or which we rarely get to do, but or weave for other people, we're putting our prayers and good energy and good thoughts into that weaving, all the while we're weaving, so that person feels that energy when they wear it. And I've been told many times that yes, people do feel that energy that's put into it, and it's protective. So, and that was one of the things that my grandmother told me before. I kind of knew it, but then, because from the energy, but she told me about it. It was a teaching. So that was interesting.
Do we have any additional questions? Otherwise, we can may wrap up. Last opportunity.
Maybe just a comment. I'll just make one quick comment. So many of us here, maybe all of us, I'm not sure, we're big fans of wool, and big supporters and promoters of wool. But we represent a small percentage the overall population. And we have a lot of educating to continue doing on the value of wool and the importance of it, and you know, the sustainable aspect to it, and the, you know, how it has a less of an impact on our planet. And so I would love to ask for all of your help in continuing to help us promote and support this amazing fiber, because we have an uphill battle to climb with it. So thank you.
That reminds me, I actually have a good point of I remember in our film, Chief George, and prompt you again, it doesn't have to be the exact same answer, but I remember when I was asking you about why you like using wool, and you had a very good answer there, but I'll, you know, pass it over. You know, as a weaver, why do you like working with wool?
Well, as I said, we started out with mountain goat wool and a precious dog that was bred, which is now not in existence. But using the wool, it's alive. It's alive. It's got an energy of its own, and you know, that adds to the work that we do. And I mean, that's what I find so amazing. And I feel like we have to start talking about, you know, talking about that, you know, talking about making a connection to what we wear, making a connection to what we eat, making a connection to where we live, for a better world. And I think that was kind of what I talked about, and that it'll last forever. Because I've been around to the museums and you know, when we were writing our book, and studied the weavings, and they're absolutely, most of them are absolutely pristine condition. So the wool has held up.
Fabulous. Well, and certainly for any of those on the call with a bare patch of flooring that would benefit from one of these beautiful rugs, as mentioned, you can order through Burritt Brothers directly, or if you get in touch with Lydia, we'd be happy to connect you on. And I should note as well that each of these rugs has a social give back, and helps to support ongoing research and development in the Canadian wool industry. So not only will you be adding a very precious piece of art to your home that you can treasure and enjoy for generations, but you'll be supporting the growth and development of our wool industry in the process. So so please buy early and buy often. There's think of all the rooms where you can accommodate some 8x10 rugs, some beautiful runners. You could transform. I think you could just design a whole lovely West Coast home with just these items. So and if you need some help with the exterior design and advice on the architect, as Chief George says, her and Buddy do that too, and you'll soon be able to see some of their architectural work in action at the new Vancouver Art Gallery, amidst other projects. So again, we are just so lucky to be able to have you part of this partnership, and hope we will continue to grow and develop this over the years. So I want to thank you, Chief George, for the time and for your partnership. I want to thank you, Jenny. Thank you. Well, thank you, Jenny, and the whole team at Burritt Brothers, Colin Campbell, for your partnership. And we look forward to continuing to developing new opportunities for Canadian wool and the Canadians who transform it, and showing, again, we can tell our stories with our wool, and they can stand up amongst the most beautiful products that the world has to offer. And that's something we can all take pride in. So I want to thank everyone again for joining us, at least in Eastern Canada, on a very warm and lovely summer day, and wish all of you, no matter where you're dialing in from, a very happy and healthy week. And we look forward to seeing you at the next Spinning Yarn Speaker Series, which will resume in September, just ahead of Wool Month. So again, thank you all for joining us, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Siyam.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lydia. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.